this is Kathy Green, Marketing Manager at KidMed, and today we're with Julia Starks, nurse practitioner, to talk to us about social distancing. With the new phase 2 out, we wanted to ask her a few questions. The first one is, Julia, do kids need to wear masks?
So children under 2 do not need to and should not wear masks. Children over 2, depending on the child, should wear masks. The goal is to prevent the spread both to and from the child. If they are a child who would leave it alone and they can wear it appropriately over their nose and not be constantly touching their face, then absolutely, especially if you're going to be in an enclosed area like a grocery store where there's not great ventilation. Outdoors, not so much. If you can maintain appropriate distance in a well-ventilated outdoor area, they don't need to wear their face mask. For those kids, I would recommend the most important thing is hand washing. But we do want to prevent them, again, if this is a child who is constantly touching their face with the mask on, probably shouldn't be wearing it, because if they were to touch something and then touch their face and then put their fingers in their mouth, etc., that's how they can get the virus and plenty of other germs as well.
Now, I know the Virginia High School Athletic Association, as well as a lot of rec sports, are going back to play and games this weekend. What do you recommend as far as players, parents that want to watch their children play? What are some safety measures they can take?
So the most important thing, and I'm not going to lie, it gives me a little bit of anxiety knowing that children are going to be going, or teenagers, whoever, teenagers, going back to playing sports because they are going to be in close physical contact. But, we do have to balance life and our own mental health with risk. It's all going to lie on a spectrum, anywhere from low risk for people who can stay home completely and grow their own vegetables and have their own little farm to people who are just out and about living life as if nothing is going on. Most of us fall somewhere in the middle. So what you can do to try to decrease the risk, because there is going to be no 100% guarantee unless you're like the little house on the prairie, away from everyone else, is, again, as long as they're outdoor sports, you fall down a notch as far as risk goes. Okay. Being able to stay far enough away from other parents and families in outdoors, again, they recommend at least 6 feet. The further the better as far as any medical professional is concerned. And then if you can't and you are bound and determined to go, do wear your mask and make sure you keep it, well fitted behind your ears, above your nose, below your chin. Below your nose is not doing anybody any good. As far as the children go and the people who are playing sports, yes, it makes me nervous because they're panting, they're sweating, they're touching and grabbing each other. It's sports. It is what it is. It's fun. But there is the risk of spread, especially for children who have symptoms. So the biggest recommendation, aside from staying far apart and maintaining that appropriate social distancing and wearing a mask if and when you need to, or even if you're just more comfortable wearing a mask. If you do wear a mask outdoors, it does decrease your risk, but I do understand the desire to just get fresh air and not be encumbered by a mask. But if anybody in your household has symptoms, including the child, any symptoms at all, stay home. Because you could easily spread it. Or if you've been in contact with someone in the last 14 days who is known to be positive, stay home, because it could be up to 2 weeks before you or your family members start showing symptoms. And that goes for you and for your sports player. And, one thing I really want to reiterate is I could get it and be totally fine. You could get it and be totally fine. Children, by far and large, are totally fine when they get this. They have mild viral symptoms that last a few days, with very few exceptions that do have severe consequences and severe outcomes, which is really terrifying. But I do try to reassure parents that by far and large, children are actually doing really, really well. Again, when we're talking about spectrum, it's like you start from young infants and children, and then the risk of severe outcome just goes up depending on how old you are. And, we are not spared in our age group. Of course, we worry most about our grandparents, but yes. We are not spared. But yeah, that's what I would recommend as far as safety is stay home if you have symptoms at all. If you've been exposed to somebody who has it within the past 14 days, and then, enjoying these sports activities otherwise, with appropriate distance, especially if you're outside and you don't have to wear a mask in that circumstance, unless you're not comfortable and you do want to, again, that would lower your risk even another notch. So Yeah.
Okay. And then what if your child has anxiety? With lots of kids going back out, sports are starting, phase 2, restaurants are opening. Well, how do you talk to your child if they are anxious about going back to the public and interacting with other people?
Absolutely. And that is a real issue right now. And it goes on both ways. There are kids who are anxious and just dying to get out of the house. Understandably, we're all going a little stir crazy. And then there are children who are really scared to go out in public because of everything they've been seeing and hearing. I think one big thing, especially for children, is reassurance that they will be okay. But the safety measures that we are all taking is to protect not only us from getting sick and mom and dad, but grandparents. It's we're in this as a global community together to protect everyone. We're not just doing this for ourselves. I also recommend being honest with children. They respond really well to open, honest discussion. Age appropriate, of course, but they really do respond well to it. Hiding things from children doesn't often go well because then when they are faced with whatever it may be that could be a stressful experience, it's very overwhelming to them. So if we can kind of prepare them, that can be really helpful. The other recommendation I have for kids going back out into public is starting slow. Go on like nature hikes, places where you can be away from people. Also, if the child's afraid of wearing a mask, make it fun. Do colorful, make it an art project, put the masks on their toys, make it a fun thing. Just because you're wearing a mask, it doesn't mean that you're sick. It means that we're actually doing our duty to protect each other. And that we're all in this together. But yeah, starting slow, going to outdoor places where you can keep appropriate distance, and then being honest and open with them in the most age appropriate sense. But that would be my recommendation as far as that goes.
Well, thank you very much, Julia. Once again, this is Kathy Green. This is this week's Kid Medical Message. If you have some suggestions or questions you'd like us to discuss, please email us at info@kidmedva.com.